Good morning. This is the Mad Professor from the Two Cigars and a Blunt podcast, the Ashed Out After Show podcast, and the Better Than Sex Sports Show podcast. One of the consequences of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade has been emergency rooms in the states of Florida, Texas, and North Carolina turning away pregnant women. Other states have been doing the same, but these states have really gone far in doing so. In one North Carolina case, a woman wound up having a baby in her car when the emergency room had to turn her away for lack of an ultrasound. Her baby died shortly thereafter. These states and others banned abortions right after the decision of 2022. Doctors and hospitals are now more concerned with being charged for murder than of saving the fetus or the mother, if emergency care cannot save the child. Federal law does require emergency rooms to accept pregnant women and give them care to patients while they're in labor and to stabilize them so that they can either be cared for at that hospital or transferred to another more equipped hospital. But states that have enacted some of the more strict abortion bans, the doctors are confused about the kind of care they can provide. Now, I say that to let you know that today the Supreme Court is hearing a case that will overturn even those federal protections. In Texas, there was a case of a woman who was 9 months pregnant and experiencing troubles during contractions when she was turned away from a hospital in Marlin, Texas. The emergency staff tried to intake the woman and triage her so that they could stabilize her and transfer her, but the physician on duty, told her that it would be best if she and her husband drove 27 miles away to a hospital in Waco. We don't know the condition of her baby or her. At Sacred Heart Hospital emergency room in Houston, the front desk staff refused to check in a woman after her husband asked for help because she was bleeding. She delivered her baby in the restroom of that hospital lobby. Of course, the baby did die. The EMTs that came to try to help the woman because her husband wound up calling 911, they took 20 minutes to get to her. And when the EMTs asked the hospital staff what was the fetal age of the baby, of the fetus, they didn't know because, according to her, they weren't her patient. At a hospital in Florida, a security guard wouldn't allow a woman to come into an emergency room because she had another child with her. She had to come back the next day to that same emergency room where the staff could no longer find a fetal heartbeat. Now, these stories are bad, and they get even worse if you're black or on Medicaid. Now, these incidents happen in this country where we're used to chanting, "We're number one, we're number one." But we're not when it comes to the care of our pregnant women and the babies. In America, you're in and out of the hospital in 2 days under normal circumstances during childbirth. Most Western countries, that average doubles. There are countries like the Netherlands, Mexico, and Canada where it's even lower hospital stay than the U.S. when it comes to childbirth. Now, maternal care and paternal care afterward doesn't even compare. America is almost dead last in that, in allowing new mothers and fathers to take time away from work. Now, I say that because in this country, we have one party who walks around pounding their chest saying that they're pro-life, that they're pro this, that they're pro that. How are you pro-life when the first thing you do when that baby is born is say, "Hey, Mom, we're going to cut funding to help you if you can't afford to take care of the baby we just forced you to have. Then we're going to cut education so that your child won't be able to learn. We're going to cut food programs so that you can't feed your child. We're going to cut child care subsidies so that you can't find anyone to take care of your child so that you can actually go to work, which is we're going to force you to do within a month or so of having your baby." What's funny is that the same party also cuts environmental protection laws that are meant to protect the people, pro-life. And the bad thing about some of these anti-abortion laws that were passed after Roe v. Wade was terminated is that in the case of rape, in some states, the rapist has more parental rights than the woman who's being forced to carry her rapist baby. And in fact, if she can actually get an abortion, in some instances, she has to get permission from the rapist to do so. Pro-life. Yeah. This story, I'll show you the article where I got some of these stories from. I'll put it in the comments, I guess. A story like this is heartbreaking, but more than that, it's really infuriating. And something else, it's just something to talk about.